The Emperor's New Clothes. Once upon a time, in a grand kingdom filled with bustling marketplaces, towering castles, and cheerful townsfolk, there lived an emperor who was, well, let's just say, a little obsessed with clothes. Oh no, not just any clothes. This emperor adored the fanciest, most dazzling outfits you could imagine. He loved clothes so much that instead of doing emperor-y things like ruling his kingdom or helping his people, he spent all his time trying on new outfits and parading around in front of mirrors. He even had a different outfit for every hour of the day. Now, one day, two strangers arrived in the kingdom. These two weren't ordinary travelers. Oh no, they were sneaky, clever tricksters, and they had a plan. They told the emperor, "Your Majesty, we are the most talented weavers in all the lands. We can make the most magnificent clothes anyone has ever seen. But here's the catch. These clothes are magical. They are completely invisible to anyone who is foolish or unfit for their job." The emperor's eyes lit up like fireworks. "Invisible clothes that show who's wise and who's not. I must have them," he exclaimed. So, he gave the tricksters a big bag of gold and told them to start working immediately. The tricksters set up looms and pretended to weave. But, surprise, they didn't actually weave anything. They just moved their hands around, pretending to work on invisible fabric. Day after day, they would hum and whistle, acting as though they were busy creating the most exquisite garments ever. The emperor, of course, was curious. He sent his most trusted minister to check on the progress. But when the minister arrived at the workshop, he saw nothing. Not a single thread. The poor minister thought, "Oh no, I don't see anything. Does this mean I'm foolish or unfit for my job?" Not wanting anyone to think badly of him, he pretended to admire the invisible fabric. "Oh, it's so beautiful," he gushed. "The colors are extraordinary, and the pattern is simply breathtaking." The tricksters grinned from ear to ear. Their plan was working perfectly. The emperor sent more officials to check on the clothes, and all of them had the same reaction. They didn't want to admit they couldn't see anything, so they all praised the invisible fabric with big, fancy words. "Splendid, exquisite, majestic," they said. Finally, the tricksters announced that the clothes were ready. They pretended to dress the emperor in his new magical outfit, lifting their hands as if slipping on robes and fastening buttons. The emperor twirled in front of the mirror, admiring himself even though, shocker, he wasn't wearing anything at all. But he was too proud to admit he couldn't see the clothes. After all, he didn't want anyone to think he was foolish or unfit to rule. The emperor decided to show off his new clothes with a grand parade through the kingdom. Trumpets blared, drums beat, and the townsfolk gathered in the streets, eager to see their ruler's latest fashion. Of course, they all heard about the magical clothes, so when they saw the emperor prancing down the street in his underwear, they thought, "Wait, he's not wearing anything." But just like the officials, they didn't want to seem foolish, so they all cheered. "Hooray! How magnificent! What a stunning outfit!" Now, in the middle of the crowd was a little child, no older than 5, with big, curious eyes. The child tugged on their parent's sleeve and said loud and clear, "But the emperor isn't wearing any clothes." The crowd fell silent. Everyone froze. Then one person whispered, "Did you hear what the child said?" Another murmured, "The child is right. The emperor isn't wearing anything." And before long, the entire crowd erupted in laughter. The emperor's face turned redder than a tomato. He realized the truth. He had been tricked, but he was too proud to admit it. So he held his head high and continued marching as if nothing was wrong, even though he felt very, Very silly. And so, the emperor learned a valuable lesson that day, though it came at the cost of his dignity. The 3 most important lessons for kids. Now gather round, little ones. Let's take a closer look at the story and uncover the sparkling treasures of wisdom hidden inside. Yes, there are lessons here, and they're more valuable than gold or invisible clothes. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Lesson 1. Always speak the truth, even when it's hard. Imagine what would have happened if the little child had stayed quiet, just like everyone else. The emperor might still be parading around in his underpants. But the brave child spoke up, and the truth set everyone free from the silliness. So remember, being honest, even when it's scary, can make a big difference. Lesson 2. Don't be afraid to admit when you don't understand. The emperor's officials were too scared to say, "I don't see anything." They were worried people would think they were foolish. But guess what? Pretending to know something doesn't make you smart. It just makes things worse. It's okay to ask questions or say, "I don't get it." That's how we learn and grow. Lesson 3. Be yourself and don't worry about what others think. The emperor cared too much about what people thought of him, and that's how he got tricked. But the little child? That child didn't care about looking smart or important. They just said what they saw. Always remember, being true to yourself is way cooler than trying to impress others. So, my little truth tellers, the next time you're faced with a tricky situation, remember the emperor's tale and these 3 magical lessons. Speak the truth, be brave, and always stay true to who you are. Now go out there and shine brighter than the fanciest clothes anyone could ever imagine. The end.